Hi all, good morning and welcome to this session. This is part of the OMPG series, uh, which stands for Overseas Maharashtrian Professionals and Entrepreneurs Group. So this series involves speakers from various sectors of society, those who are leaders, administrative, governance leaders, entrepreneurs and founders. So we do take their interviews so to inspire and motivate our uh, audience, which is OMPEG members in UK. So that is the primary purpose. So we are fortunate to have Dr. Deepak Mhaisekar Aji today as part of that. Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Namaskar.
Uh, yeah, namaskar. Before we start on this, I will briefly give a brief introduction for the OMPG group for our wider audience who would be referring to this session later on. So as I said, OMPG stands for Overseas Maharashtrian Professionals and Entrepreneurs Group. It's a community group which was established in April 2016 in UK by entrepreneurs with the spirit to motivate Maharashtrian community to take plunge and to start their own businesses and ventures. So successfully, we have now close to 200 fee-paying members, and out of that, we have around 70 entrepreneurs and founders who have their own businesses. And these businesses spans across various sectors, be it IT or AI, be it logistics, supply chain management. Some people have their own restaurant, some people have tours and travels, and various kind of business. We also have solicitors and law firms who are owned by Maharashtrian professionals, and it's a plethora of business. So we give them we give them various opportunities to our entrepreneurs during our showcase event to present their products and services. And also we have our annual anniversary event once a year. Just very briefly, next year we will be conducting a large scale business meeting, kind of business networking event on 28th 29th of June in London, central London, along with in collaboration with Garze Marathi Global. And that will be a huge event to look forward for all areas and all sectors. One more point, the OMPG in UK has also collaborations with High Commission of India London, Consulate Journal of Birmingham, and also we have tie-ups with various other business ventures in India who are interested in collaboration with UK. For example, Saturday Club Trust in India or BBNG Network in India. And there are such various global communities across, I would say globally itself, and Maharashtra included, those who are expanding their businesses to UK or UK based businesses are trying to expand globally. So both ways we are collaborating. Yeah. So that's briefly about OMPEG. And now I will briefly share the introduction for our chief guest today. So our chief guest today is Dr. Deepak Mhaisekar. By education, sir is Master of Veterinary Science from Bombay Veterinary College, gold medalist, and a law graduate from Nagpur. Sir has been former divisional commissioner of Pune. Sir has been advisor to Chief Minister of Maharashtra till early this year. And currently he is chairman of SEIAA, State Level Environmental Impact Assessment Authority, Maharashtra. Sir, in his illustrious career, has also been Municipal Commissioner of Nanded, and under his leadership, national awards on solid waste management and water supply were won during that time. Also, the city was awarded national prize for making the city slum free. Along with that, Sir has done also administrative reforms when he was heading District Panchayat Kolhapur, and there were various national and state level awards awarded during that tenure. Sir has played a pivotal role in the revival of three rivers in Maharashtra: Godavari in Nanded, Irai in Chandrapur, and Panchaganga in Kolhapur. Along with that, Sir has also written numerous articles in various reputed magazines and newspaper. Sir has also published books primarily on COVID Mukticha Marga, COVID Mukti Ki Raha, and Freedom from COVID. When he was Municipal Commissioner for Pune, at that time, the contribution was much appreciated for the COVID during Pune's, during the Pune when Sir was former commissioner there. Along with that, Sir has also written Atmakatha, which is Atal Avichal, and it is published last year and is available for all the audience. So that's the brief introduction for an illustration career which Sir had. Now I will hand over to Dr. Deepak ji to share with us his views on global environment, what are those impacts on India and how India is getting ready to meet those, what are the areas in Maharashtra they are considering, and ultimately what all this meant for the current companies and businesses to meet, and what areas it will open up for the new business people, and any opportunities for students who are looking to make this career. Yeah. So I will now hand over to Dr. Deepak ji, and I will share my screen as well.
Good morning. Namaskar. As in brief, he has given me my introduction about whatever administrative career I had gone through. I was in Government of Maharashtra service for more than 33 years, and I retired in 2020 when I was Divisional Commissioner Pune. And that was the time, very tough times. COVID had just started. And as you know very well, across India, next to some cases in Kerala and Jaipur, it was Maharashtra which was hit, and the cases started from Pune. So I had very tough time in those times. And after my post-retirement, I was taken as advisor by the then Chief Minister, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, on health matters, which I continued to do so for 2 years. And when he resigned, I also resigned. And now I'm continuing or working as chairman of state level Environment Impact Assessment Authority, in which primarily we deal with environmental clearances for buildings, industries, mining, and the stone quarries, or for that matter, sand mining, etc. This had been, this chairman's tenure started in June this year and would continue there, be there for 3 more years as chairman of this particular committee. This is in short my background. I'm very fortunate enough to have an interaction with all your OMPG members, because I had spoken to Harneji, Aniruddhaji, as well as Kranal, and it was very nice of them to have organized this interaction. So before, instead of wasting time, I'll straightway push off with my PowerPoint presentation. I'll skip some of the slides in view of the fact that we'll be having constraint of time, and I would like to have more interaction rather than just a monologue. So you may start. Mr. Aniruddhaji, you can share the slides and go to the next slide. I think global warming, everybody knows about it, so I will not be going into the details of it, but global warming, or the greenhouse effect as we call it, and therefore Earth getting hotter and the sea rise likely to increase. The original estimate was by the end of this century, we would be going somewhere around 2 degrees increase in the temperature, but the revised estimates tells us it could be even 3 degrees. And it has its own repercussions on the whole world. Next, please. Mainly we talk of carbon dioxide, but the fact is there are more damaging other gases which are adding to the global warming. Like if we put on a scale, if we put carbon dioxide on 1, methane almost has 21 times more potential in global warming, nitrous oxide 310, hydrofluorocarbons ranging from 140 to 11,000, perfluorocarbons 7,000 to 9,200, and sulfur hexafluoride the highest 23,900. And all these gases ultimately lead to the heating of the atmosphere. Next, please. As we know, the discussion about the global warming started in 80s, and over the process, in fact, there was 1997 when the COP3 had its meeting, and then the first international treaty to set legal binding targets on cutting GHG started. It was an extension of 1992 United Nations Framework on Convention on Climate Change, which, as I said, whatever we had just mentioned about the gases, it covers all those. Next, please. Next, please. I would not go into details of Kyoto protocols, but most important thing that I would like to highlight is, though it was enforced in 2005, 37 industrialized countries, they mostly cover US, European Union, Japan, Korea, and of course, Australia and New Zealand. So these all are 37 called Annex 1 countries, whereas India, China, and other developing countries, the South world, has been called non-annex countries. Next, please. So these are certain details of it, what is being targeted under that. Again, I'll not go into details of it. Next, please. Now, the Kyoto mechanism specifically tops of three mechanisms, and I think this is what is important as far as industries are concerned. One is joint implementation, international emission trading, that is carbon credit or carbon offset as we call it, and clean development mechanism. So some company in Europe could go for a clean development mechanism in India. It could be in the forms of plantation or improvement of technology in that particular state or country, whereby there is a reduction in the greenhouse gases. And that's what is called CDM, which again earns the company in the Annex 1 countries the advantage of carbon credit or carbon offset. Next, please. So these are the mechanism. I'm just skipping of these slides because this presentation would be shared with the members and it would be available. So it's self-explanatory as how the joint implementation works and how the different mechanisms work. Next, please. Same thing about CDM. As I said, developed countries, they need carbon credits, whereas developing countries need the technology. And therefore, this is a joint effort and is win-win situation for both the developed countries as well as the developing countries. Next, please. What are the CDM projects? Mostly they are renewable energy sources like hydro, wind, biomass, solar, biogas, biogas-based aggregation. Then clean energy, waste heat recovery and utilization, or waste to energy directly. Natural gas is also one of the ways of generating the clean energy. Then energy efficiency, having green buildings, energy efficient lighting and cooling and heating in the buildings, and afforestation or reforestation, as I already mentioned about it. Then HFC or PFC abatement. So reduction, ultimately, whatever we are targeting is towards reduction of greenhouse gases, methane, landfill gases recovery, or we call it carbon storage, and its utilization. Next, please. So again, I will not repeat this. I already discussed how the developing countries can be benefited out of it by the developed countries wherever the industries are located to earn carbon credit. Next, please. India's traditional position is we are, in terms of energy use, 1/3 of the global average. Whatever the consumption of energy is being done across world, we are just using 1/3 of it. And we cannot accept emission reduction of targets as are being imposed on developed countries. This is logical But at the same time, we cannot forget that we are the fourth largest emitter in terms of absolute number. And therefore, we are facing a situation wherein we are compelled to reduce or greenhouse gases reduction. This is possible because technological development makes it possible to switch to renewable energy and meet energy needs while reducing emissions. Next, please. As I said, Annex 1 countries have a compulsion to come to a carbon net zero. That's what we call it at the carbon net zero or no carbon excess or global gases or global warming gases, greenhouse gases in excess of what has been allotted to them. All the Annex 1 countries have a target to complete that net zero by 2050. But the developing countries have got a 20 years leverage like India and China, which can go up to 2070. There were various studies which had predicted that considering, because ultimately when we are talking of net zero, it ultimately affects your GDP. And therefore, considering the rate of reduction of GDP, which has not to go beyond a certain limit, we expect going by the present mechanism, it could be achievable by 2070 as far as India is concerned. But at the same time, this may grow up in India up to 2040 or 2040, and then there would be a decline in the net greenhouse gases emission. Next, please. India has committed to the climate action commitments, or NDC they call it, nationally determined contributions. And the first target was to reduce the gases or emissions by 45% by 2030 than the 2005 level. And the government of India is taking every effort in that direction, and therefore they have launched a special scheme called Lifestyle for Environment, and through which they are targeting, may it be solar energy, may it be wind energy. And as some of you must have read, that India has kept a budget provision of 18,000 crores for greenhouse gas production in the coming 4-5 years. We really don't know how far we would be achieving that target, but that is what India is trying. And that would be the ultimate solution for all the problems of greenhouse gases, because that would be the cheapest source of energy. Next, please. Yeah. Now, carbon pricing instruments, as you very well know, there is one emission trading schemes, which is everybody knows about carbon credits or carbon offsets. Then, if unfortunately, in spite of this, you are not able to achieve your targets, the products that you produce could be imposed carbon tax and energy tax. So that is, I think, yeah, thank you. So these are some of the mechanisms by which we are trying to, mechanism by which the carbon pricing is decided. Next, please. I am not going into details of this. What is carbon trading? Generally, as I said, the developed countries need carbon credits, and they would be buying it from the developing countries. And in the process, they would also be going for CDM in the developing countries. Next, please. Next, please. This is the cap. When you have a certain cap for production, this is the quota beyond which you cannot emit the greenhouse gases. And if you do, then you go into negative and you are to buy carbon credit. But if you keep your emission at a certain level below the capped line, then you may generate carbon credit, which you can sell in in national or international market. The government of India's position has been, at least as of now, they have banned carbon credit trading internationally because the India also wants to be carbon neutral. The carbon credit rates vary from $30 to $40 in USA, almost 70 per carbon credit in euros, in European Economic Union, and around 25 to 30 in Australia and New Zealand. All Annex 1 countries are very much after it, earning the carbon credit and try to become carbon neutral. Yesterday only I was looking here, the Mayor of London is targeting to make London carbon net zero by 2030. I don't know, it is very ambitious target, but I think that is the way they are trying to do, and they are imposing taxes on certain vehicles which are emitting more carbon in the atmosphere. Next, please. This is the money involved in carbon market. In my firm opinion, maybe after 2030 or at the most 35, we would be only talking of carbon economy and nothing else. Conventional economy may be just becoming redundant. And therefore, I am writing a book on that. That's called Carbonomics. So everything would be spinning around. The whole economy or the world's economy would be spinning around carbon. Carbon doesn't mean carbon only alone, but all greenhouse gases put together. Next, please. So that's it. Next, please. Yeah. So to conclude, carbon credits and carbon offsets are both tools that can be used to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. However, they are different in a few ways. Carbon credits are tradable, as we call it TDR, transferable development rights in an urban scenario. So the demand and supply will decide the rate of the carbon credit. Europe is currently the world's biggest market for carbon. The EU ETS is worth around 751 billion euros in 2022, almost 87% of the global total. So Europe is going to be in a big way as far as carbon trading is concerned. Next, please. I think I tried to be as brief as possible because, as I said, I wanted to have more interaction than just one way or I talking to you about carbon and carbon. Mr. Aniruddha had just spoken to me about that. I may also share one or two of experiences of mine as when the COVID had hit India. As I said, Maharashtra was hit in a big way. On 9th of March, we had come across the first COVID case in Pune, and thereafter it evolved over a period of time. And in the first wave, nobody was knowing about what is happening, what COVID is all about. So was mine as well. I too was new to the phenomena. Only the advantage being, I being a biological graduate, I knew a bit about viruses and the things to come. So based on my experience, I used to generally work almost 18 hours a day in those times, get up at around 5 o'clock in the morning, see what is the situation in COVID in Europe, especially Europe and China, because that was getting affected, especially the Italy. And whatever best we could, extract out of it. And then based on that, we were deciding our future line of action. As everybody knows, initially WHO had not asked for masks to be worn. So we were very short of masks and PPEs. So procuring those was a gigantic task. So all these we had to decide. And after that, I used to take a feedback from my district collectors and my district magistrate, as well as the municipal commissioners, as to what is happening on COVID field. which I used to complete by say 9 o'clock, and after that give whatever feedback I had to the government. And based on that, we used to go ahead. And throughout the meeting with various doctors and various organizations, because it was not only the health issues, there was a lot many issues, as you must have heard through the news, the migration of labor, the lockdown enforcement, the logical supply of food chain, and all things were involved. So I had to prepare different task forces to get the things done and to ensure that there is no problem or there is no major crisis. As it is, the pandemic itself was a biggest crisis that we had faced in our lifetime. It happens once in a century. As we know, in 1918 we had the earlier pandemic, so we were totally new to it. And in the process, when the first wave was about to subside, I retired, and the then chief minister wanted me to continue with him as his advisor on health matters. So I continued, and then I was looking after the overall state for the COVID administration for 2 years till he resigned. And fortunately, by that time, we already had COVID much under control because of the various vaccinations that were developed. The second wave was the worst. Third Omicron wave was a mild one. Comparatively, the mortalities were very less, though the morbidity was high. And eventually it subsided on its own. Some of these experiences I'm bringing out in my second edition of the book. The first edition is already over. So maybe in second edition, I'm covering this, because in my first edition, I had written only up to my retirement. After that, whatever I experienced during COVID as an advisor to the chief minister, and later developments that are coming up in my second edition of the book. I think with this short or maybe long, whatever way you talk it, I conclude my talk here and let the forum be open for discussions. Any questions are welcome. We probably may not have answers to the all questions, but whatever I could, I will try to answer. Thank you very much. And once again, thank you, OMPEG, for giving me an opportunity to have an interaction with you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your informative session. It was very informative, as well as it looks, the future is definitely going a carbon way. I have some questions. So I think, as you said, it is primarily the Europe energy market which is trading in carbon right now, and India is at a very nascent stage, and even government of India has currently banned international trading uh, of carbon. But what I wanted to understand, let's say an established company in India, if they just want to earn carbon credits themselves, what are the various ways for them? I mean, do they go for, let's say, plantation, or do they, what are the avenues available for them to earn carbon credits, and who measures those carbon credit for them, and how do they prove that I have carbon credits? So if you can elaborate on that, please.
India is yet to formalize their carbon credit market, but they are in the process of doing so. In June last year, that is 23, the Energy Act of India was amended, and Board of Energy Efficiency has been made as a repository and the one which should be keeping the accounts of the carbon credits generated. So they would be having an inventory and registry with them. And the Board of Energy Efficiency is trying to finalize the regulations, and they are trying to empanel some agencies through which they would be getting carbon credits. Both. There are two ways of doing it. One is certified carbon credit or verified carbon credit. And those two mechanisms, they would be coming out with soon. And once they come out with that, then probably we will have a formal carbon trading market in India. As of now, as far as plantation is concerned, what you had told about, the Ministry of Environment and Forest has come out with guidelines about what are the number of plants one is supposed to go for plantation. For example, in construction sector, for every 80 1 acre of land where the construction is done, minimum 80 plants are to be planted, or minimum there has to be a plantation of 80 plants. This is based on the assumption that what carbon sequestration these plants should be carrying out over a period of time. The best are, of course, teak plant and mahogany plant, we call it. These are supposed to very efficiently go for carbon sequestration, and these we are encouraging. But at the same time, in cities, we are going for Miyawaki plantation, as we call it, a dense, maybe it could be bamboo or some other, which may require lesser space, but more foliage. And those kind of plantations are being done. At the same time, industries are also mandated to go for plantation.
Sorry, I could not call you earlier. Couple of days, I say back and forth. और मैं तो Ajit.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, unfortunately, if that particular industry or particular construction project doesn't have the land in situ, then they are allowed to get land from either the local planning authority, it could be corporation, or the collector, district magistrate, or alternatively, they have to purchase their own land and ensure that whatever plantation required or mandated is done and is maintained for 7 years.
Okay. So
I think that gives answers. If there are anything in addition,
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
I have a question, sir. First, Dr. Mhaisekar, thank you very much for joining this session for OMPEG, and it was truly a pleasure listening to you. My question is in regards to, companies in the UK who might be wanting to, do business in India or set up businesses in India. Now, UK has some very, defined regulations when it comes to ESG regulations and all the requirements around the same. So let's say there is a company in UK who are meeting all the ESG guidelines, have been through the ESG certifications, maybe having undergone the ISO based ESG certifications, etc., and decide to set up in India. Would there be their existing attestations be enough for them to prove uh, their commitment to the environment and to the environment resilience when they are setting up in India, or they would require to undergo something additional, something specific, something local? That would be my question, sir.
As it stands today, they would not be requiring anything additional. But as I said, the process is in the evolution by Board of Energy Efficiency to draft and finalize the regulations. As they go ahead, things would be more clear. But as it stands today, it is not required as long as you are a certified carbon neutral industry when you are. The only consideration that is being thought of by all the countries is whenever they are importing, let there be whatever is being imported is carbon neutral, so that at least it should not add to it. In fact, most of the European industry people, when they are importing from India, they are asking for now for a certification that it's a carbon neutral, or what is the carbon footprint that has been created by that particular product. They are very keen on that, because since they also have their targets of becoming carbon neutral, they don't want to add any additional carbon footprint on their own soil. And as of now, the government of India has the same policy. Of course, over a period of time, it may evolve and there may be some further clarifications which could come out.
Apologies for a ignorant follow-up question on
Most welcome.
what you mentioned about carbon footprint. So, if our listeners have to understand that, what might be the baseline thresholds that normally the Indian government looks at, for foreign companies coming in from a perspective of carbon footprints, because I do understand that net zero is expectation. However, I'm not very sure that everyone would be able to achieve that as of what we stand today. So what would that be, sir?
As I said, the target or the expectation is net zero. But if you are unable to do it in the process, when the carbon market is finalized, you will have to buy those many carbon credits and try to become neutral. Whatever your additional footprint is, you will have to negate it by buying the carbon credit. And that doesn't mean that any industry which is carbon surplus will not be allowed in India. It would be allowed, but over a period of time, they will have to ensure that they are becoming carbon neutral. And those modes and mechanisms would be formalized soon.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, I have a question.
Please do.
Go ahead.
There is a lot of talk about sustainable packaging or sustainable food, sustainable clothing, etc., etc. But all of that actually is quite pricey and not affordable to the majority of the population. So if we were to move to a more sustainable world where whether it is food or clothing or other things that people are engaged in day-to-day life, if they have to become more affordable, because only at a mass level when it is adopted will the sustainability goal be achieved. If sustainability is only going to be afforded by a few people, I don't think we'll achieve that objective. What do you think about that, sir?
It's a very pertinent question because, as you rightly said, as of now, the carbon neutral products are going to be costly. But over a period of time, when the market is totally formalized, as I said, there would be energy tax, there would be carbon tax. Once you are carbon surplus, you will have to pay that additional tax, and by which your product could become more incompetitive than the one which is carbon neutral. Apart from that, the aspects of carbon neutrality affects each and every sector of the life. May it be agriculture, may it be industry, may it be transport sector, or may it be animal husbandry sector. We are talking of becoming vegan or veg food, which creates lesser carbon footprint compared to the non-veg food. But fortunately for India, naturally there are so many people who have their dietary style as vegetarian food, and some are turning to vegetarian food for various reasons apart from religious reason. So in a way you are right that carbon neutral things are costing more now, and therefore the carbon economy would ensure in the course of time that they become equally or at the same cost or even more economic than the carbon positive foods. And that is likely to happen, and that is going to happen. That is on one part. Secondly, there is also research going on. As far as non-veg food is concerned, there is a research going on, though it as a nascent stage, but we are talking of producing artificially the meat, that is through tissue culture, as we have tissue culture. Likewise, they are talking of producing the meat through tissue culture rather than rearing the animals, because rearing the animals has two disadvantages. One, the vegetation they consume, for which the carbon footprint they create. Secondly, most important, the ruminants, or as we call it, Marathi मध्ये ज्याला आपण रवंथ करणारे म्हणतो, गाई म्हशी, they produce so much of methane during the process of rumination, and that is liberated in the atmosphere, which adds to the global warming. And therefore, now the research is on, can we go for tissue culture, and through tissue culture, the meat would be produced. And I don't think that's a distant possibility. Any time we may hear about that breakthrough, that tissue culture produced meat comes into the market. But yes, initially there are going to be difficult times to go ahead with carbon neutrality. Therefore, these mechanisms, the carbon credit and carbon tax, will ensure that people will have no other option than to go for net carbon zero.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of more questions. So this is good, good discussion. But I was thinking what it also means for, let's say, individuals or professionals. What are the roles we are seeing opening up in economy in future? Yeah, because of all this kind of new trends. Are there any new roles or new avenues opening for individuals to consider as a career option in this area, or are there any other things happening?
The preliminary estimate as far as India is concerned, there would be minimum 250,000 job creation. These jobs would be utilized to assess the carbon credit earn or the carbon offset earn. Because I don't want to go into technicalities of it, but there are 4 or 3 sources of carbon calculation. Source 1, source 2, source 3, and now we are talking of source 4 when we are talking of offsetting or changing the process itself. But this has to be done by someone, and therefore the environmental departments of various universities are trying to incorporate this into their course so that the students who are environmental graduate become capable enough to do it. I am associated with Anantan National University, which is at Ahmedabad. It also has its own environment department. We are trying to come out with a diploma course to begin with for carbon neutrality or net carbon zero. And maybe if it clicks well, then we are thinking of introducing a graduation course in net carbon zero assessment. And with Board of Energy Efficiency, as I said, they are going to empanel people. Right now, at draft stage, they have said these would be the requirements, like he has to be an energy auditor, because everything will start when we are talking of an industry. What is the energy that they are consuming? And therefore, the energy audit is the first process in counting of the carbon surplus or carbon. And therefore, whatever their requirement they are specifying for the empanelment. So practically every agency which is going to assess the carbon credit will require minimum 4 to 5 technically sound people in different sectors. And that will ultimately create a lot of job opportunity. That would be the direct job opportunities. Indirectly, as you know, the Prime Minister has already launched Har Ghar Solar. And they are in the first phase, they are trying to have 1 crore houses with solar panels. India is very fortunate on that front. We have abundant solar energy, and therefore the solar energy can replace the conventional energy, and therefore electric vehicles are also being promoted in India. And now they are thinking of electric vehicles being run on solar energy. And therefore solar panel or electric vehicle manufacturing, even we are talking of green buildings. So the architects and engineers are being trained in that direction. There needs to be LEED certified, as we call it, or TERI certified in India. So all this is going to create new job avenues and new job opportunities for the youths. And coming maybe 8 to 10 years are going to be crucial in terms of this technology change. And therefore, the universities and the educational institutes are thinking in that direction of introducing various courses for this particular upcoming graduates.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it seems next 5 to 7 years will be crucial for this industry. This is the industry which is setting up primarily in India. It has offshoots globally, and the way we would see much of the businesses, as you said in your session, maybe in a decade or so, it will be mostly carbon economics, and it will be
carbonomics. Not
carbonomics.
only industry, but even in construction sector, we are finding it. We are trying to ensure that whenever we are giving environmental clearances to the construction projects, they create minimum carbon footprint and at least they become net zero in their life cycle. Whatever expected life of that building is, within that, they should try to become net zero. And that's the way the recycling of water or solar panels being put up at the top of the building for energy production, solar water heaters being installed, rainwater harvesting being done on a large scale, which is being done even in here. I was just reading about it yesterday, the Crystal, the town hall building, which was developed by the Siemens. Now it is being used by the town hall. The mayor is using it, which is said to be the net zero building. So something of that sorts of building, we are trying to ensure that they come up. At the same time, additional carbon sequestration through plantation. So every building is mandated, or every construction project is mandated to have certain number of plantation done, either on site or off site. That's what we are trying to do.
Okay, sounds very good. Thank you very much. I think it was I would say, well-rounded session on covering various aspects of environmental, climate change. What are the things happening in Government of India, Government of Maharashtra? I think you shared a lot of details around carbon credits. I think it will be very useful to our listeners who would be listening to this session afterwards as well. It gave them a broad perspective on even the roles and opportunities, direct jobs, indirect jobs would be coming up. And I am sure those companies who are forward looking, they would like to get ready themselves now, considering this embrace will be coming very soon. So all in all, thank you very much, Dr. Deepak Mhaisekar ji, for being with us and sharing your thoughts and experiences.
Thank you very much. For giving me an opportunity. I must clarify, whatever views I have expressed here are my personal opinions, not in my official capacity as the chairman of the SEIAA.
Okay.
Because in academic discussions, it becomes more relevant and more easy to express your views rather than sticking to your own position, in government position. So therefore, I would like to clarify that. And I'm available at any time, as you have my email ID. Yeah. Anyone having any doubt or questions can interact with me on my email. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all the insight.
Thank you.
Thanks all.